My brother was out seal hunting. He got attacked from behind and managed to grab his knife and save himself. When he came to realize, oh no, it's a mother. We've always known traditionally that we avoid killing a mother. It's always been sacred to us to protect them. He had to present himself to the council, and so he was given the job to mother the baby, and we kept it. It got so big it went over the barricade one day and got to the dog food, and that was an indication that, brother better go teach it how to survive on its own. So he did. I really got attached to the bear because I more or less grew up with it. And some days when brother took him walking, once in a great while he'd put me on the bear and I would ride on it like a horse. I was just happiest little girl in the world.
In, Arctic Alaska, hunting is a really important part of life. It's not just about going and shooting something, it's about going and putting food on the table. But more importantly, subsistence hunting isn't just about the insular family unit, it's about feeding the whole community. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about subsistence hunting in Alaska is that people go out and they'll go get, fish, or they'll get a caribou, and they'll get, seals and whales. And one of the first things they'll do is they'll say, oh, I need to take this to the elders. This isn't just about one individual surviving or one family surviving, it's about the whole community.
We didn't just go out and kill and put in a freezer. It's like a ritual that I learned from my parents.
It's all about relationship. I don't know, I think there's a lot of camaraderie involved. And just being out on the land or being out on the ocean, it's like getting back in tune.
I'd rather be out there. To me, once I go out there, it's the world that I learn from.
Now we spend all our time out in nature. You get very intimate with the world. And over time, if you're living that life, you start to sense that everything has a spirit. There's a consciousness in everything. Everything is alive. If everything is alive, then we want to respect it. And if we're going to use it, we want to use it respectfully.
What I try to tell my nephews and nieces, you love to hunt, you have to take care of the animals that you catch, preparing the food and eating the food that you catch.
Water provides you. The ice brings you life. It provides all those things that you need to be a part of your life.
That was something I grew up with. I grew up respecting the animals. I grew up respecting the land, and that, to me, that is why we as Inupiaq, as an Inupiaq culture, as an Inupiaq people, is why we're so successful.
I think most central to the ideology of the Inupiat is the idea of sharing.
Being able to feed the community, feed others. That's why we hunt. In the old days, that's what you needed to survive,
The sharing is important because it's how the community survives together collectively.
We just give. That's how I grew up. That's the way I'm always gonna be. Because of who we are, we always think about other people first.
If our people didn't share in the old days, we wouldn't have survived in this harsh, climate environment.
Big Timid, Little Timid, and King Island. And in those three islands are the stepping stones to get to America.
So King Island is this absolutely beautiful place off the coast of Alaska. And if you can imagine being on this really kind of rocky island that kind of shoots up from the water to these cliffs, and then all of a sudden you see these stilts, and then you look up and there are these houses.
They were built on the cliff up high because of the ice. Being an island in the Bering Sea, you have ice that's being pushed by the winds onto the island. So it's going to pile up 50, 60 feet high. Structures are still there today, and people have returned to King Island. It's a growing community as the people return back to their island.
When I was young, my mom, whenever the Northern Lights came out, she'd just whistle.
Boy, they come alive. Just keep whistling and that aurora will just like, you can almost hear it.
And then she explained to me a little bit later that those are children, and children who've passed away when they were children. You don't want to draw them in too much, is what she said, because then they could play football with your head, play Eskimo football, and that's what they want to do. They're always playing, those children up there.
Don't play out without your hood on. If you don't have your hood on, the aurora person is going to come down and chop your head off and play ball with your head.
It wasn't like they were trying to do bad, or it was like a scary story or anything like that. It was just, that's how it was, that's what it was.
In the month of November, there's no sun. So during that dark time, we travel by the light of the moon. It's quite different. Everything was silver and black. Toward the horizon, we could see where caribou are because their body heat flowing upward, and we could see it glowing in the moonlight against a dark horizon where there's no stars. If somebody yelled, you could know who yelled from where the sound came from, but specifically where that cloud of their breath went up and it glowed in the moonlight. So that was a good time to travel. It was very surrealistic. And so things that were dark objects looked very close, and white objects looked very far.
We are taught that there's no hierarchy. It's not everything else and then man, humans on top, and they're separate from everything. We're taught that everything is equal, and that all the animals have a human form, or can be seen in a human form. And so they have just as much or more intelligence, in fact, have a lot to teach people. And so that's how these transformations can happen. It's if the animal wants you to see it in its human form. There's a story where a man comes up to an ice hole, and then realizes there's another man in his parka that's got stuck in the net, and is just stuck like that. Oh, can you let me out? Please help me, And so then he lets the man out, but then realizes that was actually a seal. That was a seal man. And just because that seal wanted that help, that seal allowed itself to be seen in human form.
We have our Dimi, the body, which returns to Nuna, the earth. And we have Atik, who is our name that has been passed down to us over the generations. The spirit of our Atik lives on so long as man remembers that name. It would be hard to describe what happens after death. The feeling is that when our Anik returns to Sila, then that may be reborn if the name is passed on to a new child who can then retain some of the memories of the original name.
And so it's not uncommon for grown-ups or adults to meet a child who has the same name maybe as their grandmother and say, "Hi, Aka," which means grandma, "Hi, Appa," or "Hi, little mom," or "Hi, little dad," because it's the traditional belief that the soul, is continuing on.
Humans are renewed and replenished over time, just like our plants. Every year, flowers are born and bloom and they die. Next year, they are born again.
The recurring type of character in Inupiaq stories is the manslayer. And the manslayer is kind of this bad guy. And I think really what's at risk when the manslayer comes into story is the livelihood of individuals and the whole community. And so the manslayer is really used as a way to say, don't act only for yourself, always hold the community in your heart. Oftentimes in these stories, there is one person that will stand up.
And what this humble person will represent, who faces that manslayer, is a return to order, a return to true living in the community. And it just takes that one person. It could just be that one person that can help to change everything. Because everyone wants to live a good life. Everyone wants to have a good community.
With regard to the environment, the blizzards have been one of the key elements that have impacted survival of people, especially in the hard winter. We know a blizzard is coming when the moon is starting to get fuzzy. We also look at the stars. When the stars are twinkling fast, we know a storm is approaching. We look to the clouds in the sky to give us a direction the storm is coming from. We learn these as children by observing weather on a daily basis.
With the story of Kunuk Sayuka, told by Robert Cleveland, it's just a masterwork. It's a well-known story among the Inupiaq people, and in our case, of producing a video game that really reflects indigenous heritage. It captures the imagination, and it's something that you have a very specific kind of task to do. There's a blizzard, and it is just a non-stop blizzard that is overpowering the people. And there's one man that wants to figure it out. And in our case of the story, it's a girl that wants to find the source of that blizzard. The blizzard man, it's like that is the physical embodiment of an element of nature. And so there's a person that needs to go up and take away that adze, that's chipping away that snow.
In that community, the person least expected is the one who stands up and makes the difference.
Humility is something that we value, and where that comes from is the idea that you are not the biggest thing in the world. And when you live in an extreme environment like where the Inuit reside, you're at the whim of the environment, of the climate, of the animals. You can be as prepared as you can, by learning from your elders that, you're not the biggest force in the world.